Wired. Unplugged.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wired Unplugged, episode 50. Number 50. I don't know what the word for half a century is. I should have looked it up before I started recording.
Half a century, innit?
Yeah, but I don't know. We talked about this
50.
before, didn't we? Yeah, 50. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If there's anybody listening who are around that age, like, don't worry about it. It's not that big a number. But in podcast terms, it's a very big number. 50 episodes in. I can't believe it. It's been crazy. The amount of backdrops I've had.
50 weeks?
I know, yeah. Well, 52, we know what that is, don't we? But because of the way that things are, this has been over a year now. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Maybe you've sort of found us along the way. Maybe around a nice episode 36, 42, whatever. The point is, like, yeah, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, just in case you didn't know, this is the Wired Unplugged podcast. In case maybe you're listening on the 50th episode because you've come here because you've probably seen our title, which, to be honest, is probably about the Nintendo Direct. This is the Wired Unplugged podcast brought to you by Wired Productions, where we talk about the video game world as a whole, to be quite frank. But also, it's a great opportunity to talk about all the ins and outs and news of an indie publisher, Wired Productions, because there's a lot going on, and I think it's maybe lifted the lid on indie publishing and putting stuff out when you're not a Japanese megacorp. I know for those that are watching the video version of this podcast, I'm dressed like I work at a Japanese evil megacorp, and that's because I did a bad Mark Zuckerberg impression last week. And I've decided to wear a little turtleneck just in case I have to do a bad Steve Jobs impression.
I was going to say, you are rocking a Steve Jobs ensemble.
Well, it's actually just...
but like a sexier Steve Jobs. Let's not be around the bush.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Yes, Steve Jobs, who's much better at Magic the Gathering. Although I'm sure he's probably quite good, because to be honest, he would have been. You know, because like...
I was going to say, yeah.
He's a bit of a like tactical warlord, isn't he? So...
Yeah.
I don't know what colours he'd play. Probably blue. He seems like that type of guy, to be honest. Anyway, So how have you been? We're meeting up fresh off the back of probably one of your favourite milestone moments of the year, I bet. The Nintendo Direct.
They are my Christmases, I'll be honest.
Yeah, your little chapter breaks in the year sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let's learn. Let's get some nice information. Let's see what's going on in the world of Nintendo. You start to get excited. You know, I've personally restricted my going in all hype mentality, because it's like, okay, this is nice. Some things are going to be shown. I don't really care about guessing. I'm just happy to, because then I can't be disappointed, and I'll be happy either way. When it's just like, here's games. And I guess we'll talk about the Nintendo Direct a bit later on, because there's quite a lot to sink our teeth into, I think. And like I said before we start recording, I've actually I have some surprising to me opinions on a few things, which I'm excited to talk about, just to see if I'm either alone or if it's a mutually shared thing, or
that's great, because for anyone that doesn't know, we decided not to talk about this off camera, if you like, so we can divulge a little bit later. But yeah, let's keep things rocking and rolling, because there's plenty to talk about at Wired Towers this week, as usual. And I've got a nice little jingle to kick us off.
Wired propaganda.
I always feel a bit like Christian Bale in American Psycho, because whenever that's playing, those heavy dulcet tones, if you watch the video compliment of this, I always look like I'm like having a quick bubble bath. I'm always like shoulder rolling, closing my eyes, and I'm like, in between.
It's the WWE wrestler about to come out, and it's like
exactly. I'm about to clothesline through some headlines. All right, so what's going on in the Wired world?
The first thing, and we'll go all CBBC with this, is we have some birthday announcements, Jake. We have some birthday announcements.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the first birthday of sorry, let's be honest. These birthdays fall all close together. That is like a third of Wired are born in the same time period. Yeah. So we would like to wish Anastasia a massive happy birthday. Happy birthday, Anastasia. Anastasia, for those who don't know, is a member of the PR team at Wired. She came on board originally to help handle PR in Russia initially, before the dark times, and has now expanded her role into general PR. She's absolutely amazing. Has been part of the Wide family for quite a long time now. Happy birthday, Anastasia!
Happy birthday, Anastasia! I don't know how old she is, so I'm just going to round everybody to about the age of. I don't know what's like a good age that you'd be like. If someone said that you were that age, you'd go, "Oh, I'm not really that old or young." 24 seems like a good.
Yeah, and she'll be like, "Yeah, I'm actually 22."
Yeah, something like that. That's what I mean. Yeah. Why is beyond your years, Anastasia? Happy birthday!
It's very, very true. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Next up is someone that we all know very well, and that is our good friend Curtis. Curtis, happy birthday, Curtis!
Curtis, please, can you
turns 3 today.
Yeah.
I was saying when I got told about everyone's birthdays, I was like, can we make up? Can we just mock up some really terribly made, handmade birthday cards? You know, when they used to show them on like kids' TV.
And when it's someone's
love
birthday.
from Mum, Dad, and Jake.
Yeah. I always wanted to go in for that, but never did.
And if you are listening today, so on the Friday that this goes out, it is actually Steph's birthday today. So
three.
Steph.
I can't believe the Holy Trinity this week. We got 3 birthdays in a week. So yeah, Steph, happy birthday. And Curtis, as a little birthday treat and another little Easter egg for the sort of video watchers, we will now take 3 seconds, only 3 seconds of silence, where you can just insert your favorite meme.
Just his face.
Yeah. Thank you, Curtis. Happy birthday, mate. Best editor ever. All right, great. So yeah, starting off with some birthday. That is very CBBC, isn't it? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that's the birthdays over, and now for an episode of Pokemon. In this week's episode, Ash Ketchum goes to Pallet Town to re-meet his mother.
For very young people, that's a great reference to 90s children's TV in the UK. Okay, just trust me. All right. That was SMTV Live, that, isn't it?
Pikachu.
Amazing. Shouts out to that.
Yeah, we love a bit of SMTV Live and Shin Megami Tensei. Okay, let's break into some other news, actual news outside of people living their best lives and continuing on life's journey.
Yeah.
So last week we announced that Martha is Dead Collector's Edition is out. Those orders have started to be shipped across the world to everyone that has ordered them. They're selling so well, it's ridiculous. I actually do think I'm saying this from my own personal point of view, but I think there's a lot of agreement internally that this could be the best collector's edition that Wired has ever done.
Yeah.
And usually what you would see with a collector's edition is that you would usually find an unboxing video. But if you go to @WiredP for product, I don't know, P for packaging, you'll see that they have done a really, really nice reboxing video, I guess.
A packaging video.
A packaging video, where you see it all get put together, and you can see all the items, how they're assembled and everything.
I like that. It's really cool. It's the unboxing. It's the new thing. Yeah. It's Wired the well ahead.
The boxing video.
Yeah, it's like TikTok's mad for that at the moment. Like it's for, like companies saying, "Look, here are all of the like sweets that we're putting in the packages that we'll sell you for 30 quid or whatever."
Yeah.
But that's how I've seen it. It's great.
It's therapeutic. It's actually quite therapeutic as well. You have ASMR. I do think that boxing videos are not the fighting ones, but packaging videos are actually quite good. You just see the hands and how swiftly they move and know where everything is. And it's like, do you remember that really cool video where Satoru Iwata unboxed the Wii U and he had his white gloves on?
The gloves, he did, yeah.
It's like that. It's wonderful. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
But they are selling so well. They are probably not going to be around for long. So if you have a hankering for one of the most beautiful collector's editions that we've ever done, don't miss out. Speaking of Martha is Dead, something really cool happened as well. It was recently the Taipei game show.
Yeah.
In Taipei,
Taiwan.
no less.
Yeah. Is that Taiwan?
Taiwan.
It is,
Taiwan.
isn't it? Taipei in Taiwan. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. And Martha is Dead won a Grand Prix prize award.
Everybody who knows about films knows that Grand Prix is a very posh award, right?
And what made this even better is that the award itself was presented by Shuhei Yoshida of PlayStation legend and fame. One of the biggest industry advocates for indies outside of Japan as well. Is absolutely legend. So I think that means a lot to everyone that works on Martha is Dead.
Absolutely does. I had such a funny moment. I met Shuhei Yoshida, and it was a lovely moment. And some game company called Remedy who made this game called Returnal. Well, the sort of company director of Remedy was Shuhei Yoshida's chaperone. And I was at a party where he was there, and I went up to the game director of Remedy, who I assumed was like Shuhei Yoshida's handler, because he speaks Japanese and Finnish and English or whatever, this guy.
Oh wow.
And I was like, mate, do you mind taking a picture with me and Shuhei Yoshida? He's like my hero. And this guy literally just tapped me on the head as if to say, you sweet summer child. He tapped me on the head and he went, I said, he's like my hero, right? And this guy went, he's all our heroes, my friend. And then he tapped me on the head. But then he was like, I was like, this guy, it's like my idol. And he was sort of like, he's everybody in this room's idol. Like he was some sort of indie game Yoda, right? And this big Finnish guy was tapping me on the head and was like, I'd be happy to. I had a good chat with him. He was he was just happy to be there, to be honest. Yeah. And he came to the UK just to see some indie games. What a legend, yeah. I think he ended up, not in a disguise, that makes it sound like he's a bit too sneaky, but he ended up going around the WASD. The first WASD, which is Wired was showing off some games at the time. Yeah. So, interesting turn of events. So Yoshida is kind of, like the indie game poster boy.
Yeah, indie Yoda.
Indie Yoda. Yeah. Oh, thanks for taking that one on. Yeah, Grand Prix. There we go. Yeah.
Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu.
And congratulations to Martha is Dead once again. Unearthed, literally on a bit of a tour just to get awards.
Yeah. Tiny Troopers Go crossplay beta is happening weekend number 2 on Steam. Yeah. Don't miss out. It's crossplay, so it's also part of the Xbox Insider program as well. That is a continuation of what we mentioned last week. So if you are hankering for some 4-player co-op crossplay action,
and you're not listening to this in the past, and you're with the times.
If you listen to this in the future, and we are in the past, then you should buy the game now.
If you listen to this in the past, then whoa.
Yeah.
Convergence.
Yeah. Do you want some more? Do you want a bit more?
Yeah.
You want a bit more? If you were listening to this on Friday, again, not only is it Steph's birthday, Twitch streamer extraordinaire and community manager legend, but there is a Tin Hearts Steam beta which has gone live today on Steam, and that runs from the 10th of February. I'm going to say dates because, we never know when people are listening, especially in Australia where it's a different day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the 10th of February all the way through to the 14th. And that will give you access to play an entire act of the game. Yeah. So you get a good couple of hours of gameplay to sink your teeth into. So get marching. March on down.
Not that I'm telling you what you should do or anything, guys, but it's a great Sunday afternoon game. This is a hot drink game, like a hot drink and some social isolation, by choice, and then just go and have a bit of time with it. Feel like you're in some sort of. The word for this is immersive, isn't it?
I agree. And I was actually on a call about Tin Hearts this week.
Yeah,
I was talking to Neil, and he was talking about someone who's potentially got involved in a specific part of the campaign. And this is horrible. Why am I saying this? Because I can't tell you who it is. But I was like, sorry, just say that again. Are you sure you said that right? It's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I'll tell you after, Jake.
If everyone else listening, just wait outside, all right? We'll find out soon, all right?
Yeah.
Tin Hearts. This is surely this is one of those games where you have to see it. It's very difficult to kind of explain it, do it as justice. Dickensian Lemons is probably the coolest example of it.
Yes.
But when you see how immersive it is, you'll understand. So just go and have a little look. And literally the 10th to the 14th, a smorgasbord of content, to be honest. Yeah, good. But it's still going.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
Well, unfortunately, we had to send a dog to prison this week for corporate espionage. As you know, Leah, the new office wire dog, is settling in, but has caused a bit of disturbance and ruckus this week. So we're sent to doggy jail, which is just a really nice, comfy corner of the office, really, to be honest. So one, I don't know the right way.
She struggled. She struggled to.
She struggled one out in the meeting room.
Struggled one out. Oh my god!
Is that what you're gonna say?
I was gonna say she struggled to adhere to her potty training.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's
struggled one out.
Yeah. She defecated in the meeting room. Is that right?
She defecated in the meeting room, but not only this. Had ended up chewing through a couple of network cables, which caused some confusion. It's like, why aren't these things working? It's like, oh, the dog has been hired to sabotage. We're looking at you, Devolver. Secret dog breeding company on the side. Yeah, send them into our competitors.
Yeah.
But no, she's wonderful. Still has Twitter. Do follow her on Twitter.
#freely.
Yes, and the last thing that I'm going to say is this is something that we'll talk about more in both the far and immediate future, and it is a bit of a tease at the moment. But as you know, Black Razor Records exists. We did some amazing charity music releases for Arcade Paradise. A lot of that money went to very good causes. But there are more projects on the horizon, and they are stupidly flipping incredible. And again, I hate to be this person. I can't say anything at the moment, but I just want to prepare you that there is going to be some amazing music-related things occurring, and all of them aren't necessarily directly saying, hey, this is a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Some other things are
Download
this is like a foxy, unexpected tangent. So
all right. Well, yeah. I suppose we can't give everybody everything every week, because otherwise what would this segment be? The good news is there's always things moving and shaking in the Wire Propaganda segment. So I guess we'll find out about that in due course. Quite a lot of good things going on in this week, isn't it, really? There's always something.
It's busy.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So free Leah. Hope she does a time. Get out on, in good terms.
Struggle one out, man.
That's yeah. I think, but I don't think dogs have potty training. I can't remember what the right word for that is either. But hey, we'll figure it out. We're all new dog dads and mums right now in the Wired team, so just keep it going.
And that is the beautiful thing, though. It is three men and a little baby style of, it is communal raising. Everyone is involved.
It's funny because
it
sounds like the start of a bad joke, doesn't it? How many video game employees does it take to raise a dog?
Yeah, it's 28.
Yeah, 28, exactly. 28, some network cables.
No, 28 and we still ain't got enough.
Yeah. We're halfway there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the propaganda coming to a nice end this week. We'll move on to the question. We got, the big think. Again, I don't have a jingle. I might sort of, do you know what? I might take it upon myself to fight. But the thing is, if I source some music online, it's going to sound like the X-Files, because I'm going to think of something a bit, pensive.
Can you do just something that is pensive, but also like lounge jazz? So it's just like,
it's a question.
Questions.
Oh, yeah, good. All right. Let me work on it. We'll see what happens next week. Maybe we'll just rotate it out. Do it in different genres.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I've got a keyboard. I've got no excuses. Like a little
break out the guitar.
Yeah, we're doing it.
I've got an ocarina. I've got a Zelda ocarina back there as well. So
very good. All right. Well, so this is the questions podcast. The questions section of the podcast. And we got a question this week to ask everybody at home and to each other. So, do you want to bring it to me?
Let's see. Yeah. Do you have any personal favorite advice or mantras you keep in mind when working? It's an interesting question.
Probably changed a lot depending on the different jobs I have at the moment. To be honest, it's incredibly difficult to. Well, actually, yeah. My mantra is this: I have an incredibly privileged job, but I didn't used to. I come from lots of different, really 0-hour contract jobs. In fact, the area where I live, the average wage is lower than the minimum wage. How is that possible? Well, it's because there's so many 0-hour contracts, hospitality jobs and pub jobs and stuff. So one of my mantras is always that. I'm always like, I'm not in that anymore. So it doesn't matter how stressful I think my day is. Sometimes I have to look back and laugh at myself and think, a stressful day for me looks like more emails and spreadsheets than a not stressful day for me. Whereas when I, had a job before that was like gastric bypasses and life or death situations of patients, that was stressful. But now it's just like, oh my gosh, a 23-year-old millionaire that I'm sending a game to hasn't got his game for an hour. So that's a good sort of mantra that I have. And my other is that I'm also a leader of an entire team. And I think this is it's not as competitive as it sounds. But I always think if I can't do their job better than them, I shouldn't be leading them. So I often get back into the trenches and do the sort of no disrespect to Leah, but the dog work every now and then, just to keep myself sharp. So then I can stick with the iron sharpens iron mantra, which is what I believe.
Yeah, but also the ambition always, because I know exactly what you mean. The ambition is always like, you also do want your team to be better than you in terms of you want them to be aiming to be like, I got you covered. I got you covered. I am a separate part of your brain that you don't need to use anymore.
That's exactly that's exactly it. Yeah, ideally I want them to be better than me, but I will give them absolutely no quarter. Because when they do, then I'll be impressed. But that's my iron sharpens iron mantra. I try to make sure that they're as sharp as possible, and I do my best, and we just. But I think that's a good mantra to have. There's another mantra if you want to grow in your life and progression, which is a Sugar Ray Leonard quote, famous boxer. I like this one. It's good, and it's about absorbing pressure and stress. And it's hard to get up and go for a jog when you're wearing silk pajamas. You know what I mean? Hard to put the work in when you're comfortable. So that's a good way to have and think about that. That's where progress comes from. Really, it comes from discomfort.
I don't know that.
Excuse me, I wasn't asking you, Alexa or Siri, weird sentient creature.
Yeah,
she doesn't know that. That's what I mean. She doesn't know hard work.
Yeah,
when she gone for a jog.
I have no idea why that even happened. That's quite haunting.
Sorry, I don't know hard work.
Pajamas.
Yeah, all I do is think. Anyway, right. Well, we did ask for your input, thank you. But Aaron, I want to know what yours is.
I have three. I guess I have three, and they're from different stages of my life. Some that are connected to me that I have from discussions with people, and one is just from someone who spoke some sense. So the first one, I will quote Shigeru Miyamoto, right? Yeah. The father of Mario and all that jazz. And that one phrase that he said a long time ago has stuck with me for a long time and works its way into everything that I do, consciously and subconsciously. And that piece of advice was, a good solution is something that solves multiple problems at the same time.
Huh. Yeah, that's clever. Yeah. Good.
The second one comes from, it was the creative director of the first Crew game from Ubisoft.
Yeah. Deep cut that.
Yeah.
Compared to Miyamoto. Yeah.
I went to Ubisoft. I played the game before it was announced and stuff. Got to do some interviews with him. And my interview was the last one of the day. And I was just left in the office with him. And we finished the interview. And I'm going to try and phrase this delicately so we don't have to bleep things out.
It's Curtis's birthday. Let's not make him work too hard.
He said, okay, so what are you going to do for this game? And I was about to respond, and he said, for context, in Paris, I am sold little cakes like they are effing diamonds. And that has always stuck with me as well. And I think there's actually some very useful... There's useful advice in there if you know how to mine it. And it's just something that has always stuck with me. And I'm very, very, very conscious of that. And that's kind of... How do you approach, how do you draw the best light out of something, yada yada. The third one was from when I was in secondary school, and we did work experience, and I just wanted to spend time with my mate, whose name was Scott Cooper, not related to me at all, by the way. And his mom had an inn, so I took it so that we could work together. And she worked at a very, very big Tesco. So my work experience was at a Tesco with my mate Scott Cooper. Good. And we got to spend a week working across all the different things, preparing us for our futures. And at the end of it, we got taken into the cold, heartless back end of the store, where it's just like brick and mortar. And we got taken to the office by the current manager of that Tesco store, right? And I said, do you have any advice that would be useful for our onward career? And he actually did give something that at the time I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense, but actually something that has resonated with me. And he said, be prepared to learn, perform well with what you've learned, and be prepared to drop it all, forget it, to relearn.
Yeah.
Because of the way and frequency of things change within the Tesco hierarchy, of course. But actually, that's something that you can transition to the games industry, right? How much has changed, how much it regularly changes because of innovation and so on. That was very useful. And I'm going to add a fourth. I'm sorry, this has been going on for too long now. That's
good. Careers Fair episode. We got something useful here.
Yeah, number 4, and because this is a Wired podcast, I'm going to quote Leo.
I've got a Leo quote for you as well, if you want.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And this is, if you are going to kill a cow to eat...
this is a good one. Yeah.
You make sure that you respect it and you use and find a use for every single part.
Yeah, that's true.
Of that cow. And I think that is also incredibly useful to keep in mind. Yeah. And kind of goes back to the Miyamoto quote. This is just an Italian version of what Miyamoto said, really, is a good solution solves multiple problems at the same time.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's I think it's good. I love the cow analogy the most because obviously a lot of people who are just a bit, I don't want to say normie, but if you don't know how nice beef shin or beef cheek is, or whatever, or tongue, it's probably because you've not tried it. But what I'm saying is, when you think outside the box, if you kill a cow just to get the filet mignon, then you don't understand things enough. And if you studied and was like, I'm going to kill this cow, don't Google this. Google, when I kill a cow, what do I do? No, but when you got to realize. Imagine just going, I don't know what that shin is. Throw it away. Just because you don't know stuff doesn't mean that you can't get to know, understand it, make the most of what you got, and something to give its life to. It's very good, very, very good. Yeah. Very Hannibal season 1. That's a good quote. That
yeah.
Very poignant and important. So I suppose there'll be people listening who probably don't work in the video game sector, which is nice, guys. Let us know. You probably learned some probably cool lessons than us. We've done very well, I think, to keep it down a little bit. Yeah. We weren't giving you the sort of don't you really use airport lounges, they're not worth it advice. And why don't all video game events have small food? Stuff like that.
Do not upgrade to first class if you're going to Amsterdam.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going short haul, never upgrade to first class.
So if you've got some real advice for real people, then you can let us know by tweeting us at Wired Unplugged or at Wired P, and we can share your advice with each other next week with the listeners. I'd really like to hear that. Yeah. So the question is, do you have any personal mantra or bits of favorite advice and you like to use when working? Because, that's a big part of your life till you get to retire. That must be nice. Anyway, so there we go.
One day.
I've got a jingle before we talk about the Nintendo Direct and some other news.
News Stone from Google.
And here we are. It's Nintendo Direct time. There have been other things that have happened this week. Nothing majorly notable. There was the Steam Next Fest, wasn't there? A little bit sort of earlier in the week. If you
how many demos? Like 892 or something like that?
A ridiculous amount. Actually, the first time, though, it's been fewer than it was the time before. It was like 1,400 the time before. Now there's actually so that's good. Knowing it's not just over and over and over and over again, getting bigger and bigger. So I like that. So yeah, I'm just looking like what else happened this week. Well, look, honestly, the truth is it doesn't matter as much as the Nintendo Direct, to be completely honest, does it? My timeline has been about 90% Hogwarts Legacy and about 10% everything else. And then now Nintendo Direct's happened. My Twitter was still not really about Nintendo because Twitter went down during it.
It did. It did.
Yeah. So that's a little time capsule for anyone listening in the future. For some reason, Twitter had a bit of a weird moment. And
apparently there's been some updates that happened. And the reformatting of the code in the back end apparently brought some outage. There was a way around it where if you scheduled the tweet for like 1 minute in the future, you'd be fine. But if you tried to do anything live, it's like
it was saying you've tweeted enough. And I had one tweet and only one tweet lined up about this Nintendo Direct, and we'll talk about. We'll see if you can guess in advance. A little game for the folks at home. See if you know what game I'm gonna about, and we'll find out soon. Okay, so the Nintendo Direct then. So you're a sort of Nintendo fan. Anyone who listens to the podcast will know that every week you somehow manage to bring Nintendo up. The same way that I brought Silent Hill up. It's like it's good to have that to remind and thing is, the people I spend a lot of time with are kind of into the serious games, Escape from Tarkov and all the sweaty, serious sim. So when I speak to you every week and we talk about Nintendo, it's great.
Some levity.
Yeah, absolutely. A nice change, to be honest. And so, when I watched this, what I'll say is there was a lot here. But if you were I was watching it with my partner who's not really Nintendo fan 101, had a DS, played Super Mario Galaxy and Mario Bros on the DS, and that is it. I don't
great
know
games.
Yeah, great games, but is that it moment, isn't it, as far as I'm concerned?
Yeah.
So I was interested to talk to another connoisseur and share our thoughts with the wider world. So,
like I said earlier, I've got an ocarina back there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, why don't we break it down? And I don't know how you want to sort of handle a dissection.
I think we'll get something out of the way because I had a very interesting reaction that I wasn't expecting in this, as we alluded to earlier. Mm-hmm. I think I want to know: did you have any controversial takeaways, like a highlight, low light that like stood out to you?
I had there was a game that caught my eye a lot that I didn't expect to be that interested in, called Sea of Stars.
Yes,
that looks great.
Yes, that looks amazing.
Yeah, that looked really, really, really good. A retro-inspired turn-based RPG with an incredibly appealing art style. It somehow managed to be fresh. It looks like kind of an Advance Wars meets Octopath Traveler art style, if you like. Beautiful art, and I'm incredibly interested in it. I've got the demo ready to go because there was a
demo.
Yes, so the announcement is that the game is coming out on the 29th of August on. They didn't say it's something direct. But on PlayStation, Steam, and Switch. And they put a demo out. So that was my
Shadowdrop's a demo. Yeah,
that was it. So that was my other highlight, which was off the back of quite an odd looking game, which I can't remember. I saw level 5, and I was like, "Oh, level 5 are doing." I can't remember what the game was. And then it was like some Persona ripoff, I think. And then, they brought the King back, like, the real chat. That's my.
That was exciting.
Now that was, and so Twitter was broken, but still somehow, like in the words of Jeff Goldblum, like life finds a way, right? Someone managed to flip in. People still did manage to tweet about the absolute chad that is Professor Layton. What a lad. And you know what, right? Me and my mates have been saying for quite a while since the Switch came out, and there's been like, I said, day one, a Switch needs a Professor Layton and a WarioWare. And that Professor Layton thing never happened. And so if anyone doesn't know what Professor Layton is, just get to know. Like, it's like a puzzle sort of escape roomy, detective-y, Poirot-y, Sherlock Holmes-y little. But it's great, and it utilized
brain training almost
brain
as well.
Training, exactly, and it used the DS in a way that made it feel fun. It was such a video game, and the Switch has got some kind of cool things, you know, the HD rumble and whatnot, and gyroscope things. So I just
the infrared sensor on the right Joy-Con as well, which a lot of people forget about.
Exactly, and it's a sort of like little gimmicks, if you like, that Professor Layton would really unearth, tap into, and stuff like that. So I think that was a highlight. My low light, I don't want to say it's a low light, but look, here's my issue. I have a Triforce tattoo, right? In case you want to know, I'm a big Zelda fan. Trust me, I am. But this Tears of the Kingdom, it's kind of washing over me a little bit. I'm watching it and I just went, that's fine. Oh, that's Matt Mercer. That's what I said. I said, oh, babe, that's Matt Mercer. She's like, who's that? I was like, you know, Cassidy from Overwatch. Oh, right. Okay. That was like the conversation that we had about Tears of the Kingdom. We were crying, you know, like holding each other. This is the best day of our lives. Like, you know, like the Bucket family from in our blankets, like, we've done it. I wanted a golden ticket moment. And all I got was, who's Matt Mercer? Oh, right. And I now thought, oh, is that wait a minute, was that Ganondorf? Was it Matt Mercer?
Ganondorf?
Matt Mercer's Ganondorf. I was into a bit of Zelda, but that was it. That was it. Like,
Jake, I'm so happy you said it. You know, I love Nintendo. We've been through this, and that I am a big Zelda fan.
Yeah,
and
sure,
that I am excited for Tears of the Kingdom. But I want to be openly honest. That Zelda trailer was not a good trailer, in my opinion.
No.
Especially where we are now in the campaign. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing at the moment that has cohesively gelled together all the information of the game. And I'm not saying everyone should know everything, but if you watch the trailers, there's a lot of disjointedness in all of this.
They're like different games almost.
Yeah. You know, everyone made the meme straight away of, it's Legend of Zelda, nuts and bolts. You know, when Link rocks buying that car that is obviously created, which just leads me to believe that the horses are being scred over again.
I know, justice for Epona. Yeah.
No, but that trailer did nothing for me. Like, it did not raise my excitement. It actually, I'm sorry for saying this. I actually feel a bit elitist to say. I feel a bit annoyed by it. In terms of what it provided and what it didn't provide it. And, you know, one of the opening shots was, I think it was meant to seem menacing, and it was a static shot, and you had like the 3 giant skybird creature things flying around. And unfortunately, I was like, I'm sure that's meant to convey an eerie emotion, but that shot has been done better and looked better in the trailer for Twilight Princess with the again the Dark Realm flying creature things, and I thought that just looked a bit janky. I'm sorry.
Well, no. Do you know what? Actually, I'm gonna tell you something. When I was watching, my immediate thought process was, there's quite a lot of mobs and enemies that looked a bit like rubbish, and I was like, and it was showing like mine, and I honestly thought, and I heard Matt Mercer's voice straight away. I clocked it was him, and I thought, there's no way he'd be in a mainline Zelda. And again, sounds like I'm disparaging Matt Mercer. This isn't like the Matt Mercer hate club. I like him, but I was just like, first of all, he's in everything. So second of all, so do you know where my immediate thoughts went? They're doing another one of them. Hyrule Warriors, like a Tears of the Kingdom. I thought this was like going to be an accompaniment game to like Tears of the Kingdom, because I thought, oh my god, it's just showing mobs and it was like some sort of like tower defense thing, and I was like, oh no, this is the one, this is the thing. But you know what, right? Again, mate, bringing it up, but
Yeah.
I was watching it with my partner, right, who's not a Nintendo girly, and she was watching a lot of this, going, "This." When it came to the Nintendo specific stuff, it was very clear suddenly, and I didn't really think of it like this, and maybe we're too deep in. She was like, "I don't know what this is supposed to be." Like, Metroid Prime, about 80% of that trailer was like, "You know this, don't you?" But if you didn't know Metroid Prime until like near the end, you'd be like, "What is it?" Same with Splatoon. You can talk all you want about Splatoon.
We'll talk about that in a bit as well.
But you didn't see any splatting.
Yeah.
So like, if you watch that and it was like, great stuff is coming to Splatoon, but it's like, but what is Splatoon? If in case, we're one of the 480,000 people that are watching this right
For
now.
Zelda.
Live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just found, but even with Tears of the Kingdom, let's assume you heard about this Breath of the Wild. Maybe you're a younger person that's just got into video games recently. Remember, the Breath of the Wild is 6 years old at this point. Especially so you don't know much about Zelda. You've seen that like Link's Awakening thing on the Switch, maybe. But that's it. You watch it, you just go, "What was that?" So that was it. And it seems odd because Nintendo obviously they seem to always know what they're doing. But that was a little bit, Elden Ring was off the back of this incredible series of games, Sekiro as well, which not many people enjoyed. But Bloodborne and Dark Souls. So they know where the bar is. And they're also a very Japanese company with, seriously, like, they don't like to disappoint. But they knew exactly what they needed to do with Elden Ring. They marketed it very well. And at the end of the day, the game was what it was. They actually kind of gave everyone a little play of the game 3 months before launch. But with this, I'm a bit like, guys.
I know you're a Matt Mercer stan.
Yeah.
The moment the words started being spoken, I was like, okay, that's Ganondorf. And I was underwhelmed, actually. I was like, oh, this feels a bit too anime, and the words being spoken was so pantomime at the same time.
Yes. The Japanese voiceover Ganondorf, which I sourced, by the way, I watched it in Japanese.
Is it good?
It's also very, very, and not because it's Japanese, but it's very, very like ridiculous. He's got a menacing lead. He's got a deep voice in it though.
Yeah.
So it seems a lot more legit. But Ganondorf's, like he has that like almost Bowsery laugh. He's like got that voice in the Japanese voiceover. Yeah. So I felt like, okay.
Got one more point of disappointment on Zelda.
Yeah.
The collector's edition is not good.
I know.
Especially for the price. It's kind of like what you'd get in a way. My personal feeling is it's something that you would get in like a Nintendo store exclusive. It's like you get a set of 4 badges, an art thing, and a book, and it's like
it's like you say, like,
wow, you got a cool statue of the Master Sword. And
for those that don't know what Aaron's on about, because like retail is a bit of a fickle thing, what would happen sometimes is, and you alluded to this last week when we talked about E3, but basically, like, how do you incentivize people to buy your video game in one specific shop? Let's say GameStop. Well, you'll give a GameStop exclusive, but how do you have it where that GameStop exclusive isn't so good that it creates some sort of monopoly? Well, you'll normally make something like a key ring or something tiny, and it felt like a bunch of odd tat. So again, like top of the podcast, we talked about the Martha is Dead sort of special prestigious collector's edition, which again you can go on Twitter and you can see it being unboxed. Yeah. Unboxed. And look at the just do a little A and B. Not that I'm trying to start anything here. I'm just saying, just have a look and you'll know what Aaron's on about. But yeah, I felt a bit confused by it. That's the word I would say, confused. However, I can't remember. Like I'm a very boring man. I dream a lot about very realistic things. So I'll have so many conversations in my life that actually just happened in dreams. I'll dream that I go to work or something, and I can't remember now. I didn't do my due diligence before this because we're recording this in the morning, so I can't tell if what I'm telling you right now is a lie or true. And podcast fans, you might remember this. I am of the belief that you, on a previous episode of this podcast, floated the potential idea that you may just play as Zelda in it. And I can't remember. Like, either you're so good and you're so deep in my brain, living rent free in my head, that I am making up Aaron Cooper conspiracies that are so good they could be true. But when I was watching it, I thought, right, okay, New Zelda, like, let's see if Aaron's thingy is gonna, you know, be right. And I'm watching it, and I'm still getting that, you know. Did you say that?
Mate, no, we have had that conversation in the past. And
thank gosh for that.
There was actually a shot, and it's a distant shot, where there is an individual riding a horse in the dark through a field, and the hair is flowing.
Yeah.
The hair is flowing.
We know that Link is fabulous, but not that fabulous. Yeah.
I pointed out one thing last night. After that, I was like, do you know what was good though? There was one shot where the grass looked terrific.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. A positive. There's almost like there's a secret positive to all this. For those that think we're just having a moan, the secret positive is there's a very, very, very high chance this game is going to be absolutely superb. And I think that our frustration is probably that it's just not showcasing how good it's going to be properly. I think that's kind of it, isn't it?
This is how I summarized it last night as well. Was I am still excited for Tears of the Kingdom. I think it is going to be a fantastic game. I do not think that was a good trailer though. And that has frustrated me, especially when you look at the caliber of trailers that Breath of the Wild had and things like that. You know, I think one thing that it is, the trailer is probably trying to say, and you mentioned, you know, it's very mob heavy. Yeah. Is that, you know, Breath of the Wild this is a world that is recovering, that has been smashed to pieces, and is in a state of recovery. Everything is quite sparse. There is the relaxing piano music as you ride around on a horse. This makes it feel like this is going to be a more populated, dense world in terms of the threats and dangers and the amount of things that are out there. So, you know, it kind of helps paint a sense. But my moaning, shall we say, my disappointment comes from the trailer itself. I still think the game's going to be amazing. Exactly. It hasn't put me off, but I'm just a bit like, that was a disappointing trailer in my eyes.
And again,
I'm glad that you kind of share some of that, because I was like, last night I was thinking, am I the only one that's thinking this? Mm-hmm. And you know, you look at, and we'll move on to the other stuff actually, because I think the Direct itself was packed with so many cool things.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to do the sort of sense check of, again, using my partner's sort of, what did I learn about the game mechanic? We'll talk about something very exciting. If you don't know what this game is and you watch this trailer, you learned nothing. Apparently, Advance Wars. The trailer had no gameplay. It was just like some anime looking stuff. But for those that do know Advance Wars, you will know that it's this brilliant turn-based, tactical, cutesy looking, but quite cleverly deep, war game, if you want to call it that. Kind of it inspired a lot of stuff for like Into the Breach, I would say would be inspired by Advance Wars. It's you know, if you liked Mario and Rabbids, but you don't want to go full XCOM, Advance Wars might be the game for you. It was a bit of an odd one, wasn't it? Because it was announced some time ago.
Yes.
Then the pandemic happened, and then they were kind of like, well, we're just going to park that here. And everyone's been saying, all right, but normally, guys, when you park something, you kind of give us a date, and Nintendo were like,
I think actually that came from, it was partly the pandemic, but I think it was also because
the Ukraine invasion.
The situation with Ukraine and Russia had kicked off as well, and I think Nintendo were like,
1 year,
this probably isn't the right time for this. But if you make that decision, then when is the right time? You know, is their decision to release it now, saying, oh, actually, you know, it's not as newsworthy now, so we can, like, you kind of held to your initial standards of your morals there, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, Advance Wars is amazing. Like I devoured those games on the GBA as a kid. On my SP with the backlit screen.
Yeah.
You know, I smashed in Dual Strike on the DS as well with the 2-screen gameplay.
Yeah.
I even played. There was a game for GameCube, which was I can't remember what it was called. I don't think it was called Advance Wars something, but it was like set in the Advance Wars universe, and you could take control of units in like a third-person semi-strategy, semi-shootery
Battalion
type thing.
Wars.
Battalion Wars, that's the one. Yeah. Played that one to death as well.
I played Advance Wars on the GameCube because I had one of those things that you could put.
The cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, the GameCube was the sort of the TV console at the time, and that was paired alongside Nintendo's Game Boy Advance, that sort of era.
Yeah.
And you could buy a little accessory that you could slot your GameCube on top of, like a little stand, like a little docking
Game
station.
Boy player.
And then you could plug in or put in your Game Boy games and play them on the big screen with a nice controller. So I actually sat through a lot of Game Boy Advance games, and I think that's a perfect way to segue into some pretty cool news we found out yesterday. And again, if you know, you know. I felt like it was one of those moments. Nintendo Switch Online is their offering of games, and how Xbox has a Game Pass and PlayStation have whatever it is they have. I forgot. The Nintendo are just kind of like, look, just play some of our old games. There's Nintendo 64, there's Super Nintendo, and there's the NES. Well, now Game Boy has come to Nintendo Switch Online, and you can play an offering of Game Boy, original Game Boy Color, and
Game Boy Pocket
games. Yeah. So they showed that off in its beautiful sepia tones, and to me that was great to see Tetris in there, and Kirby, and Super Mario 2 Land of the Six Coins, which has an amazing soundtrack. That evoked a lot of memories. And then at the end of that, they were like, oh, and one more little Game Boy related news. The Game Boy Advance is coming out as well. Boom. And then it showed one of the most underrated games ever, and I would wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone listening. I can't even remember the name of it because I just call it that Mario and Luigi JRPG.
Yes.
Superstar Saga.
Superstar Saga.
That game on the GameCube, because I had the Game Boy player, was like one of my favorite gaming experiences. Like, I loved that so much.
That was a game that I played and finished on my GBA SP as well.
Yeah.
And I remember exactly where I was and how I felt the moment I finished the final fight in that game, because it was a challenge. It was like a several-parter.
An anime battle, I call them. It's like Dragon Ball Z, goes on and on and on, doesn't it?
And I was playing it in the dark with a quilt over my head. I remember.
Video games are the best.
It was about 7 p.m. It was about 7 p.m.
This is what I mean.
Yeah.
So between like things like that, Advanced Wars sort of not showing any gameplay and stuff like this. If you're a Nintendo fan, I felt like this was the direct for you. It showed off a lot of stuff. And
those Game Boy and GBA games as well. You can play online.
Yeah,
you can play online without a link cable.
It said that because there's like you can play some of the Mario Kart games and that in full foreplay, and I was like, whoa, very beautiful, yeah.
And the best thing for me from the GBA stuff is when I got the SP. Yeah. My parents also got me Super Mario Brothers 3, which I think was Super Mario Brothers 4 Advance or something like that. It was Super Mario Brothers 3.
The original Super Mario Bros. 3 from the NES.
Looking, given a lick of paint as well. Yeah. And I played that game front to back. It felt fresh. It was great. The one thing that they have included that I never got to do, which I always wanted to do as a kid, was Nintendo had a little device called the e-reader, and you would plug that in, and then you would swipe some cards that you could collect.
That's right.
In the case of Mario, it would unlock different levels, like new levels that weren't previously in the game before, that were contained on these cards that you swiped. All of those e-reader levels are included on the.
That's interesting.
So I'm going to get to play this and experience stuff that I never got to before. So I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, it's really good, and I'm a big fan of that. I like that. That's what I call it, the Game Boy Advance aesthetic. Like that Sea of Stars that I mentioned at the top of the direct section. It's got that Game Boy Advance aesthetic.
Like Golden Sun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I mean, brilliant. And I mean, what other moments did we have here? We had the big moment for sort of nostalgia and the GameCube era because we got a hell of a Shadowdrop, didn't we?
Yeah. And here's the thing: in terms of Shadowdrops, everyone was expecting that Advance Wars. Leading up to the presentation, it was like Advance Wars is going to shadow drop.
Yeah,
Nintendo just going to drop it and it'll be there. With Advance Wars, they announced, "Hey, it's coming out in April," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then Nintendo were like, "We do have a shadow drop, and it's Metroid Prime remastered, and it's out after this presentation digitally, or you can buy it physical at the start of March." And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, this has been rumored for a long time, but I think that was. I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that moment. I am gonna wait and get it physically,
Yeah.
but I really enjoyed that moment because I loved Metroid Prime. Again, I was in a period of my life where the summers were long and sunny and happy.
Yeah.
And Metroid. I remember playing Metroid Prime, for the first time through a summer, and I devoured it. I loved every single second of it. And the moment I heard the music and saw some of the locations, heard the power beam again, I was like, I think I am ready to take this again. And they've added twin stick control scheme as well, which is an interesting thing, really, isn't it? Because if you look at what's coming ahead, that Retro Studios are working on Metroid Prime 4 at the moment. I think people probably would have imagined, given that Metroid Prime 3 released on the Wii, and it had really cool motion controls. Aiming.
Yes,
so, is this indicative of, hey, get used to this because this is what the control scheme is going to be like for Metroid Prime 4? Is there any preparation that's being done there? But I think it looks amazing.
It looks great. I was weirdly, like, a couple of years ago, when VR was first taking its stride, one of the big sort of things that my brother-in-law, he's a big software and tech guy, he does his job. He was one of the first guys to take on like the HTC Vive and all of that. And weirdly, of all the games that I played at his house, he had Metroid Prime running in VR. You still had to play it with a controller, but you could look and aim with your head. Yeah. And I played the entirety of Metroid Prime in VR on some sort of emulator about 2 or 3 years ago. So for me, although this is good, I've recently redone it and in VR. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm good, but great, and good news for people who maybe have heard about this and they probably got a flavor of the 2.5D with what was it? What was the Metroid called from last year? Dread, exactly. That was like the old school Metroid, and anyone playing that would be like, well, what's the new sort of Metroid like? Well, now you can find out. So it was cool that there was quite a lot of like on the day news. We got that GBA and Game Boy Collection stuff, Metroid Prime Shadow Drop. The other sort of kind of stuff that you could enjoy as soon as you watched it was there was a demo announced for Octopath Traveler 2, which launches in just a couple of weeks, February the 28th. Like I mentioned, there's a demo for Sea of Stars that was out. There was another demo. I can't really remember what it is off the top of my head. I think it might be one of those like games about like teenagers that all have supernatural powers and they're in high school, but not Persona, because there was quite a few of them, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There was like
there's Ghost Trick. There was Rain something.
Yeah, Master Detective Agency Rain Code. There we go.
And then there was another one which I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Which was there was one which was about police.
Deca Police.
And I think that one looks actually kind of interesting, to be honest.
I actually did. And I was watching my partner who's not really into Japanese sort of culture at all, and doesn't like the look of like Persona or whatever. She was like, this, and I was like, no, this. Let me tell you, this is going to be a game. Deca Police. That's good.
It's like, oh, something has changed in the Matrix, and now for some reason you have the face of a cat. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And now you go into the Wired from Serial Experiments Lane. That's a good anime reference for the fans at home. I've got to say, I think I'm doing myself a disservice by not mentioning that I've been whinging and whining and bloody moaning for Pikmin 4 for a long time. And that's how they started the Nintendo Direct.
Yes.
And they're like, it's out in July, by the way. I love a bit of Pikmin. I love that sort of...
Mate. I was pleasantly surprised with how drawn I was to Pikmin 4 with that trailer. Like what they have done with the change of perspective, the fact that it now feels it seems like it feels like an adventure and a journey and a trek as opposed to, you know, missions within times and stuff.
Oh yeah. Bit of
You have that dog companion and you see everyone like climb on the back of it just to get across the water and things like that. You've got ice Pikmin that can freeze lakes for traversal. I am actually very excited for it.
It seems like it's the game that's going to include more mild peril than
yes, I'll be mild peril.
Yeah.
And some light reading.
Yeah, that's like a hell of a username as well. I always thought I'd like to come across someone called mild peril. But yeah, you're right. There was that like kind of irritating resource management aspect of it. Right, there's one thing I wanted to say. I'm fuming at the games industry as a whole for not giving this game I've never heard of its due. Right. There's a game that's getting a remaster that was announced for the summer that I am fuming that I did not know about, and I'll tell you why. I like Slay the Spire as much as the Next Man. In fact,
I know where you're going.
I like Slay the Spire more than the Next Man. I like it more than most people I know, apart from Gary, fan of the show, friend of the show, sometimes co-host. He's a big Slay the Spire head. But listen, every game these days is a roguelike deck builder. Or it has deck building elements. And it seems to be that that's kind of the recipe for success for a lot of indie games now, is they go, do you know what? Add roguelike elements. Or, do you know what? Add deck building elements. Because that's new and fresh. Well, turns out, this game I've never heard of, from Bandai Namco, called Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean, from 20 years ago, by the way, was already doing this and no one cared. Well,
I did.
Well,
I owned it.
There we go.
I owned the first one on GameCube.
Why isn't anyone talking about how groundbreaking that card-based mechanic was?
Here's one that you should look into, and it's of the same era, and I think you would love it. And I would love to see this get a similar treatment to Baten Kaitos as well. Lost Kingdom.
We're going to say Lost Odyssey, and I was like, yes.
Oh no, Lost Odyssey though. But yeah, that's good. But Lost Kingdom again, another card-based adventure game where you're summoning creatures on an adventure to fight things in your path. Really good story. It looked great for the time, and you could capture creatures that you whittled down into blank cards and stuff. Amazing. I'd love to see that get the same treatment. But seriously, this game, I never played the second one, and it's unclear to me when they say 2, if they mean Origins, which was like a prequel.
Right.
But seriously, it's an amazing game. Like I loved it. I loved it. It ate up my GameCube memory card.
Well, did you know? You probably did. You're probably the wrong audience for this bit of trivia because you probably know it. But the reason that they didn't do another one after this is because the team ended up getting split, and most of the brains behind the operation of Baten Kaitos went on to work on these games called Xenoblade Chronicles. So that's kind of started, which was, so yeah, I was like,
that is new information to me, actually.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, well, it's a lot.
But I'm like,
a lot of the same talent went on to do Xenoblade Chronicles. So I'm really excited by this because I just love cards. I love deck builds. I love roguelike. But this isn't a roguelike. This, to be very clear, this is not. It's a full on JRPG by the looks of it. Yeah. So I mean, there was a lot of other stuff, but just bits and bobs. I think for me, the only other thing worth mentioning was like, I was a bit like, everything was a season pass. Everything managed to be. There was like wave 1, like the Splatoon 3 DLC announcement was like, we're announcing season pass 3. They said that was available today, which it is. You can get the season pass today. Can't get anything with it because it doesn't, so it's just a pre-order. But why have a season pass if your season is just 2 events?
Mate, we need to talk about this actually because this underwhelmed me. Okay. One, because it's like, hey, this is paid DLC. You can get it as part of a season pass. Great. This won't be rolled into the Nintendo Switch Online expansion plus service, whatever it is, which is a shame. The fact that Wave 1 is nothing. Don't get me wrong, it's cool for nostalgia because it's like, hey, you can get on this train and go to the hub from Splatoon 1.
Yeah.
However, when you are here, everything you can buy in stores is exactly the same as you can buy in the other stores. There seems to be no content given outside of just you can use this as a hub now instead.
Yeah.
Which is like what? And then the second part looks more interesting because that seems like it might be
directed by Hideo Kojima.
Yes, yeah, but it's or Yoko Taro.
It looked like the Automata Squid Edition, yeah.
But yeah, that for me is that's the more interesting one because it looks like it's like feudal Splatoon, and throughout Splatoon 3's story and through all the other games actually, you get these scrolls and it tells you bits of the story, and it's like how humans and the human world disappeared and the squid people and the octolings came to be and things like that.
I have no idea about this. That's why I'm just like,
yeah, it's bizarre and brilliant, but that could be interesting. But at the same time, it's like it was so limited in what it's shown. I think Wave 1 at the moment, unless they announce like, oh, and you can play interesting maps from that game that you can't play else. That's interesting, but the fact that it was just like you can go to the hub from Splatoon 1, it's like okay, and during Splatfest you'll get a different performance. It's like
yeah, I found it.
Don't get me wrong, I love a bit of Callie and Marie, but calamari.
Very good, yeah. Didn't even.
But
it's a bit. Yeah, it seemed a bit confusing. And again, if you're not a Splatoon fan and you don't know the story of the Octolings and all that, like me, you just went, "What is this?" And now that I found out, I'm a bit. I was on about level 5, so I just wanted to give just for posterity what I was on about earlier was there was this game which was. And now look again. I know we're just two people talking about the Nintendo Direct. I don't want it to sound too disparaging, but before Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, and I guess they're not on about Steam Deck. They're on about like Professor Layton. Yeah, steampunk. He before that they showed off Fantasy Life: The Girl Who Steals Time. And look, I just need to say this. I'm not saying it's an Animal Crossing ripoff, but what I will say is it's the same UI. It's the same font, and I can't believe that they've got away with it. Level 5 I've taken. They have the same eyes. They have and. Just do a try back. It's the same speech bubble and text. I was like, what the heck? Anyway, so it's level 5 sort of story of seasons, sort of.
You mentioned Animal Crossing. There was another game that was shown. It was like fashion designer.
Oh, Fashion Dreamer from Xseed Games, Dreamer, who really do story of seasons.
Yeah. And that I'm like. That is a cool concept, but the moment they went into the dress up mode, shall we say, and you can see all the items you have, that is exactly the same way that it is in Animal Crossing as well.
Yeah, it looks like one of those browser games that people play, like like Bratz. So when it said you have a passion for fashion, I was like, that's the Bratz slogan. They're gonna do a Bratz game. That's lit. No,
I worked on a Bratz game. One of the first things I did at 17 years old was work on Bratz Forever Diamonds.
I actually know that game as well. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever.
You could hunt for treasure on a beach with your pet companion. Anyway.
So that was the big news this week. Nintendo did a Direct, and it means that anyone else, it lays waste to any other announcement, basically, really.
Jake, I know that, like, we've done Nintendo Direct more than justice, but the one thing that I do want to point out, and we don't have to go deep into this at all, but I just want to throw out a satisfying nod to Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, because that looks so good.
Yeah,
that looks so good.
It really does. The way that it was just a segue in from soundtrack hit after hit after hit, and then that's coming out March the 6th. I will 100% be checking it out day one.
Same.
And can't wait to get it. I actually haven't looked at if that's the same release date along other platforms. I'm assuming it is. rather than it be a Switch exclusive. That'd be odd.
Yeah.
So yeah, more on that next week. But everybody, thank you very, very much for sticking around for 50 episodes. Or maybe you've not stuck around for a full. But anyway, it's good to have you here whilst we celebrate episode 50 with the big bad Nintendo Direct to finish us up. I think Leah will be on parole by the time episode 51 goes around. So if you'd like to keep an eye on all things Wired, feel free to check out the Twitter accounts. Twitter is working again, so you can find us at WiredP. We're on at Wired Unplugged, and be sure to give your musings and your personal mantras. I'll give you the question of the week again. Do you have any personal favorite advice or mantras to keep in mind when working? Like a bit Alan Partridge at the end there. How I did all rattled off all of the radio points. Thank you, everybody.
Learn.
Yeah. I'm gonna go and get my assistant to make me a drink. No, I'm joking. Have a really nice week, everybody. See you soon. Happy birthday to everybody whose birthday is at Wired, all 50 of you. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Wired Unplugged.